Okay, let's take a look to see what's inside. You'll see two cabs here with the boiler room, desiccant to keep everything dry, a railer, some tweezers, a couple of screwdrivers, an introductory manual with a parts bag. The parts bag has the jumper wire and 2 analog plugs and some extra screws. It's also a certificate of authenticity. This one's undecorated, but it's going to be painted E4. There's a DCC chart to show the settings when it left Ron Bearden's hands, and a DVD which has lots of information, including these videos. Okay, let's unpack the locomotive. First, there's a protective spacer that's useful for shipping. When you store it in your home, it's maybe not as necessary, but it's definitely there if you ever ship this. It keeps the cabs from banging into each other. These are very delicate. I'll show you in just a moment how you want to be very careful. These are highly detailed models, and consequently some of the details are rather fragile. This model is not a reproduction of the NJ model. NJ was a good model in its own time, but this one is much better. Alright, let's look at each. I call this a cab with a capital C, another cab with a capital C, and the boiler room. And then there will be, just like the old NJ model, but this is better, a jumper wire that electrically connects the two locomotives, the two cabs. NJ only had one wire that went through. This has two, so you get both rails, greatly improving electrical conductivity. Now the parts bag also includes, you will see a little bit later, 2 analog plugs that are helpful for testing these locomotives. They're DCC, everything is modular, and the decoders can be removed. Alright, here is one of the most delicate spots on the whole locomotive. It is natural to want to pick up this locomotive like this, right about in the middle. The problem is these steps are going to break. If you handle them very much and press on them, they're going to break. The extra railings that I added are make it much sturdier, but in general you have to be very careful with these. So consequently, when I pick them up, I tend to pick them up about like this. Let me get around this camera. So see, I'm not holding the step. Now there's a little railing here that's a little bit of a detail. There's other details you don't want to bend. Some of these EP2s have a shelf here on the nose. You don't want to damage that as well. Okay, let's look at a couple of tools that are helpful for this locomotive. A pair of tweezers are helpful for connecting the two locomotives and the wire that goes through the drawbar. A small flat blade screwdriver. If you have one even smaller, that would actually be better. Phillips screwdriver, one smaller would also be better, but these are good to get started. Re-railer is helpful. And also, yes, a plain old strong magnet. The reason the magnet is helpful is because this locomotive uses steel screws, which I like better than brass screws. And if you drag the screwdriver over the magnet several times, it magnetizes it, and it sure makes taking on and off screws a lot easier. Okay, let's assemble the locomotive to put it on the track. We're going to run the jumper wire through the boiler room, and then we're going to put them together. The key thing to remember is the jumper wire has two colors, and it doesn't matter which goes up and down as long as they are the same. So I'll tell you what, let's put the red wire up. Alright, here we go. I'm going to pull. You can see that this is very tiny. These plugs and sockets are very tiny. Now this is red wire up. And notice this white wire's up, so I'm going to want to twist this when I insert it in a moment. Next, we'll put it through the boiler room. Now comes the tricky part. This is where the tweezers are, I confess, a little bit helpful. Notice I've got a red wire on top. And we're plugged in. Red wire on top. Red wire on top. Hook the drawbars onto each other. Now, here's a little bit of a tricky thing for this locomotive. There are so many wheels. This is a digital locomotive. It has two decoders, one in each cab. And so consequently, when you just pick this up to put it on the track, there's the possibility of a short circuit because there's so many wheels and so many trucks. So this is one locomotive where it's probably recommended that you just use a re-railer. It comes with one in the box. It was stored in the back. And so this will prevent short circuits. And it's ready to run.